Hello. Thank you for joining me today as I'm going to be having my friend Anne Peterson with us today. And I'm Danielle Burnock from danielleburnock.com. Love yourself from Survive to Thrive, that lady on the internet who loves you. And I'm so excited to share my friend Anne with you. She is an author, a speaker, and a poet. And she is no stranger to trauma. And you get to hear her story of all the things she's overcome and what has helped her to do that. And so let me get her in here with us. Here comes Anne. So thank you, Anne, for joining us today. I'm so excited to hear your story and to share you and your poetry with my audience. I just thank you for joining me on my live today.
I am honored to be here. Thank you, Danielle, for the invitation.
Oh, you're welcome. And for those of you who are meeting Anne for the first time, Anne and I met on a group called Tribe Writers. So our writing is something that we have shared together. And Anne, as I mentioned to you in her intro, she is no stranger to trauma. She has survived childhood trauma and trauma in her adulthood. And so Anne, can you share with the audience a little bit of what kind of trauma you have been through so that they can understand?
God doesn't let us choose the tools that he uses. And for me, one of the tools that he has used over and over again is loss, pain and loss. In my childhood, it was abusive pain in that we were hit. And so my relationship with my father was an authoritarian one. And then we had one loss after another. Lost my mother when I was 16, my dad when I was 24. And then 6 years later, my sister disappeared. And I have lost 2 of my 3 brothers. So loss is one that God uses again and again in my life.
Wow. Yeah. Loss is a heavy thing to deal with. That's a lot of losses. Wow. And you said as a child you were abused and beaten in that. How did you cope as a child with that authoritarianism and the physical abuse? How did you cope as a child?
I think what I did is I kind of climbed inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Unfortunately, in my adult life, that has manifested itself in that buttons get pressed. I struggle with PTSD. And if I'm ever feeling powerless, those buttons are pressed and I might look like an adult before somebody, but I am that child again. I remember one time in particular, I got a ticket and I started crying and the officer said, it'll be okay. It'll probably just be a couple hundred. And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. And I was that child again for those moments.
That's hard. I've been through that. That's really hard. It's one of the things that when I talk with people about their childhood trauma and they dismiss it as nothing, it's like they're looking at it at how old they are now, not at how old they were when it happened. And like what you just said, when you got triggered, you were that child again. You weren't the adult, you were the child again. And that's the things that we need to address to heal and to bring about a different outcome in our lives, right?
Absolutely. And I would say that depending on how overpowered you feel, that's an indication of how young you were when the abuse occurred. That's one thing that I've seen.
Wow. Well, one of the things that you mentioned to me too is you said that you were a highly sensitive child. Is that something that you have said because you feel like you are sensitive, or there's actually a thing called highly sensitive people out there, and I'm not sure if you were speaking to that, or because I'm also very sensitive. I read that book about highly sensitive people, and I don't want to carry the title, but I'm not going to let go of my sensitivity because I had to learn to embrace that. So can you speak to that sensitivity aspect?
I think that one of the phrases that I heard most of my life is stop that crying. What's the matter with you? And so my picture should be in the dictionary right next to highly sensitive person, right along with yours. My picture should be there because that's all I heard. And I was feeling bad growing up. Like, what's wrong with me? And yet
Yeah.
that's one of the very things that God has used in enabling me to have empathy for other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Being sensitive isn't something that's wrong with us. It's a gift.
It's
It
how
is a
I'm
gift.
wired. And
Yeah.
to be upset about how I'm wired is to question the one that wired me. And I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not
once
going to
we
do it.
learn that, before we learn how much he loves us, we attack ourselves because that's what children do, right? Because under that authoritarian, you felt attacked, right? So you just hopped right on there as a child, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we do. Children blame themselves, but children are never to blame for their trauma.
That is a great line. That is the truth. And we need to be sensitive because the person we're talking to that could be acting out, could
Mhm.
be angry. You don't know what they've been through. And
Right.
usually I have found that the difficult people that I have come across, it makes me sensitive to the fact that I wonder what they went through. That's
Right.
where I go with that.
Yeah. Like there's that new book out, What Happened to You?
Uh,
I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a new book by Oprah and a gentleman who co-authored it with her. And it's out there instead of what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And
oh,
that's a question that we need to be asking in society instead of what's wrong with you, what happened to you? Because there's a reason you act this way because of something.
exactly. I agree. I totally agree.
So you said you lost your sister, and as a child, were your brothers and your sister, were all of you abused, or just you, or just your sister? Or tell me a little bit about your siblings and your sister in that.
We were all abused except Steve. I don't think my dad hit Steve. He was the youngest of us. But I, being sensitive, I would start my crying when I could hear him hitting the others. And
Wow.
I would be in there, and it wasn't so much, oh my gosh, I'm next. It's that I almost felt when he was hitting them. So
Yeah.
one day I had my daughter, who was real little bitty thing. She was born at 3.5 pounds, and the neighbor was watching her, and then the neighbor said she'd watch her while I ran an errand. So I left, and God told me to turn around and go back for some reason. So I turned around from the car, went to my neighbors, and all of a sudden, here came Jessie running to me, crying. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, I wanted to give you a hug. And I said, I would love a hug. And so I gave her a hug and she went skipping off. And as I was going to the car, I thought to myself, God, what would she be like if somebody had hurt her like I was hurt? And
Yeah.
God clearly said, like you. And then I knew exactly how to raise my daughter, was to say the things I wish I had heard and to
Yeah.
be the person I wish my parents were.
That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. The spirit of grace would put that in your heart to turn around to provide for her emotional need. That's just that's beyond words precious for me.
It is so God. It is so God. I feel led to share this poem with your viewers.
Okay.
What is that this is God speaking in this poem. What is that you are holding in your hand, in your fist that is closed ever tight? What is that you are purposely keeping from me? For you feel that you have the right. Don't you know as you grow in your walk with me, I can see even things that you hide? Oh, if you only knew what's in store for you, you would open your hand so wide.
Yeah, if you only knew. And that's why we do that, because we don't know.
Exactly.
We don't know. And so we self-protect. Self-protect is a trauma response.
Yep.
It's completely natural, physiological, biological. And so we need the spirit of grace to coax us, to convince us, to coax us out of that hiding. There's a song out there, "Come out of hiding, you're safe here with me." But so many places where there's toxic religion that God is not safe. God's going to smack you upside the head as soon as you step out of line. But it's like, he's not like that. But we have to learn that. And he's so patient with us too. It's like, it's one of the things I take great pleasure in sharing with people is about the patience of God and that, because so many people have been wounded in what they believe about him. Like you had shared with me before how what you went through with your dad, how that hurt your relationship with God. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I figured, how could God be loving when all I had for a model was a person that wanted things just like he wanted them? There was no questioning. There was nothing. You just do it because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
And that all of a sudden he could be angry. He could be gone. How could I trust God if that's all I knew of an
Mm-hmm.
authority? It was
Yeah.
very difficult, but I have to say that the Lord gives me poems and they help me understand. And this is called The Dad I Needed. He fashioned me from his mind, giving me wide eyes to see, willing hands to serve, and a heart to love. He took me up when my parents died, and he never stepped back. He accepted me as I am, replacing my distorted image of a father little by little. And he became the dad I never knew I always needed.
Amen. Amen. And so many people need that because their father figure was awful in a variety of different ways, or negative or bad. I mean, a variety of ways. I struggled in my walk with that for partially because of my dad, but other because of trauma that happened actually in the church. And I remember hearing this story of this gentleman who was like, he was some minister somewhere talking to some guy about God, doing some evangelism thing. And the young man said, well, so you're saying that God's like your father? And he said, yeah. He goes, well, if he's like my father, I want nothing to do with him. And that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. It's like, no, it's not like your father. It's not like your father unless your father was like him.
Oh, exactly. It's his father would have been like God had he had a heart that was open, and we don't know what his father went through. That's the
Yeah.
thing. We don't know. I have to say that I need Kleenex. I have to say that I didn't automatically become this loving person toward God. I was angry. I was really, really angry. And so he had given me a poem, and it's called How Dare You, God? I
Oh,
stood
share
before,
that. Share that.
thanks. I stood before an empty sky and shook my fist clenched tight. I opened up my very soul and screamed with all my might, How dare you, God? How dare you take everything of mine, while others all around me seem so happy all the time. I've watched my loved ones disappear from in my family, and I can't take it anymore. So get away from me. With silence all around me, I wait for him to leave, like others who have disappeared when I would start to grieve. I feel his arms encircle me and hear him gently say, I know that you're upset with me, but I am here to stay.
That's amazing. That's good. That's the love that gets a hold of our heart. The love that refuses to leave, the love that loves us when we can't love ourselves and we're so angry, when we're just like falling apart in every way possible, when we're being ugly in every way, and he just hugs us anyways. I get this picture of a child that's having like a complete thrashing fit and a loving parent just hugging them and they're still kicking and screaming, and they just hold them until the child exhausts themselves and relaxes
Exactly.
into that. It's like, I got you. I got you. And we need to know that, because when you go through childhood trauma, you're like, nobody's got me. I got to go get myself because nobody's got me. That's how we feel.
Yep.
And that's why we need God to pursue us. We need God to chase us down, and he does. I mean, when we're running away, he finds a way. He finds a way. I'm just so thankful for that. So
And
when
so,
did you start your writing? When did the poetry start coming?
oh, I was in 5th grade and they had a contest, and the contest was to write a creative piece. And I wrote about my brother being my shadow. That one wasn't a poem. The poetry came not long after that. But the prize was we were going to be on the radio. And
Oh,
I got to
wow.
come on the radio and read this story called My Shadow. And at the very end, I said, it's not a shadow at all. My shadow is my 3-year-old brother. And I was one of the winners. And so
That's awesome.
I knew I liked writing. And then when my mother died, I wrote, and it was dark. It was very dark because that's how I felt. I didn't know Jesus personally yet. I had heard about him. I had been introduced to stories about him, but I didn't know him until afterwards.
Wow, that's awesome. So how did you come out of the trauma and start thriving? How did the Lord find you? What are the things that you did that brought you out of the darkness, as you called it, into a place of light? And what you do now? I mean, you minister to people with your writing, your poetry, your speaking. And how did you make that transition? What did you do there?
God had somebody that I used to know in high school invite me to a Bible study. I went to the Bible study, and this woman talked about how we needed Jesus and how he died for our sins. And I sat there thinking maybe she needed one, but I was just doing fine. And my pride it just clothed me completely.
Well, you
And
were angry.
I
You
was.
were angry. You had
I
all
was.
that loss. You had all that pain in the way.
That's right. And yet, Lois used to say I was like this ripe fruit, and all she needed to do was lower me to the ground. Because the day after I sat there in all my pride, it clicked. I saw it. I saw that when he died on the cross, it was for me. And that if I was the only person in the world, he still would have died. And so on the way home from my friend's car, it's raining, and I'm saying, isn't it great? And he's thinking, I don't know what he's thinking. And I saw it. I saw that I was saved. I called Lois, and they said that was one of the biggest miracles, because I got her the day after she has Bible study. She turns her phone off, but I got her, and I said, I can say it. I'm saved. I know I'm going to heaven. As a religious girl, I hoped, but now I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed everything. Everything.
That's awesome. So, how did that help you with losses going forward? Because I know that after that time, when does the Bible study fall in line, or the timeline with your sister disappearing? You'd mentioned that, and I know that you lost your granddaughter, Livy. Where's the timeline, and how did this new revelation and your writing help you?
Well, when I knew the Lord personally, then it was about right before my father died. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was the first loss I had where I wasn't alone. And then after that, 6 years later, my sister disappeared, and we didn't know what happened to her.
Oh,
And
well, what's that story? Why don't you stop here and unpack that story a little bit? Your sister disappeared. What happened?
my sister disappeared. She had just written me and told me, this letter is going to shock you, but I'm getting a divorce. And it did shock me. So I called her, and as I was on the phone with her, she said, I can't talk now. He's harassing me again. And I could hear him in the background taunting her. And I said, I love you. I'll pray. And I got off the phone, ran to my friends, cried out my heart. And then I went back home because I wasn't peaceful anywhere. How could you be? I was 2,000 miles away from her. Why was my husband in the Army? Why couldn't I be there? I felt helpless.
Mm-hmm.
And later that night, she called and she talked for 10 minutes, true to Peggy style. She didn't want to run up the bill. And then I hung up and I called her back and said, now it's my dime, talk. Now, then she talked for an hour. But she told me what was going on. She told me that he had once put a knife to her throat. She told
He,
me
her husband,
things,
her
her husband,
husband.
her
Okay.
husband. She told me things that made my stomach tie in knots
Oh, wow.
because I couldn't do anything. But she was also relieved. She said, I called the police. I wish I would have known how easy it was. And the police were there. What I didn't know was one of my brothers was there in the next room. He had come. So I felt much better. 2 days later, I get another call. She's gone. No one knows where. And
Wow.
then we lived not knowing for years. And all
Years?
of a sudden, God started giving us answers to our many, many questions. And we actually had her missing person case changed to a possible homicide. And he was
Wow.
arrested and we went to trial, but he was found not guilty. It was 25 years at that time after she had been gone.
25 years?
Yes, it is now,
Wow.
it will be, it is 39 years since my sister died. I have to tell your viewers this one story. I was coming home from a homicide group. I was so tormented by the enemy. If God loves you, why did he let her die? All of this was going through my mind. And I just pulled off the side of the road and pounded on the steering wheel and screamed out. The pain was intense. And God said words that gave me peace then and now. He
What do you
said,
say?
and I was with her. And that's what I needed to know. And I believe that when she took her last breath, just like he was there for her first breath, when she took her last breath, God carried her to heaven.
Wow.
We never recovered her body, but I know where she is.
Wow. Wow. So I'm going to stop here and just speak to my listeners that if you are in a situation where you are being abused by your spouse, whether you are male or female, call the police, get help, don't stay there. And if you need someone to help that's not the police yet, I know someone that's what they do. You reach out to me and I will connect you with my friend who helps people get out of those situations because she escaped herself. So if you are in this situation, don't stay there, please, for your own well-being. If it's just mentally, emotionally, and maybe even physically, because as we know from Anne and her sister's story, her sister, she didn't make it out. And so we want to stop here and address you. Please, if you are in trouble, do something about it. Take courage and do something about it so you can get free.
Yep.
Now, Anne and her daughter are working on a documentary on this very thing too. So stay tuned. Once that thing gets out, I'll be able to share that too. So anyways, Anne, I want you to share your tagline of your website because I think it is just so beautiful. It fits who you are, and I want people to come to your website and get ministered to by you, and then share something about your books too. What's your tagline?
My tagline is, life is hard. I write words to make it softer.
Oh, I love that. I love that because words of encouragement are so important. Words are containers, and those containers that you deliver to people, it's like they're hugs in letter form.
Exactly. Can I share another poem?
Yes.
This is called Standing There. I was afraid to walk into my pain, but I saw you standing there. Your arms open wide so I'd slip right inside. I could feel how much you care. My tears fell like rain again and again, but you gathered them all as you felt all my pain. I know who you are, for you've never been far. I know that you care, for you've always been there. And though I may hurt all the weight of my soul, you are the one who has felt every hole. And so I will go into pain, for I know you'll always be standing there.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's just, he goes into your pain with you. That speaks to a quote of mine that I find all over the internet. It's gone viral. But in the last week, I found two memes. It's two organizations have made of it, because part of it is about the silent screams in our soul. And it talks about entering the pain, someone entering the pain and hearing the screams. And it's about that validation, that poem you just shared about him entering the pain. It's like you don't have to enter the pain alone. So
When I was crying out to the Lord, it was 1994, 2 o'clock in the morning, and God gave me this poem. And I have learned you get up and you write it, you don't wait. Last night, my sadness woke me up and I sobbed uncontrollably. The world was sleeping, so I turned to the Lord for conversation. I feel like I'm getting my life together, Lord, except for these holes. The losses I have left these holes in me, and now my life keeps seeping out the holes. I've tried filling the holes with all kinds of things, busyness, food, sympathy from others, but nothing works. And the grief from memories past enveloped me again. And I sat rocking myself, holding myself, trying to give comfort to my pain, wanting to gain understanding. This pain sure hurts, Lord. And then as early morning came, I heard him softly call my name. With nail-scarred hands outstretched to me, he said so very tenderly, I have holes too. And then I knew he understood as no one could.
wow, I love that. I have holes too. Oh, I love that. Wow. So you have 15 books, you had said. Do you have any of them with you, or? Oh, look at all those. And what are the titles of some of them? Share a couple of them with our viewers and say the
Broken.
title of it.
Broken, the story of abuse, survival, and hope.
Oh, that's your personal story, isn't it?
Yes. And another memoir that I put out last year is called Always There. And you can guess who that's about. And also, I'll just point out, he whispers, and they are poetic conversations with God.
Oh, that's
That's how he
beautiful.
talks to me. I was so excited to find out the translation for the verse in, I think it's Ephesians, said that you are my poem. When we're his masterpiece, I'm his poem. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome. Sometimes different translations, they deliver stuff like that. It's like I found something in Ephesians also in the Passion Translation where it talks about the Holy Spirit being our pledge or whatever, our seal, which sounds like, what are you talking about? But in the Passion Translation, it says he's our engagement ring.
Yes, I love it.
I mean, that
love
is
it.
just so beautiful. And that's because he loves us so much. And that love I'm that lady on the internet who loves you and who loves the people who are listening. You, all my listeners, I love you. That's why, because that love, it comes through me. I love because he loves me. And
Absolutely.
we need that love. It's what we live on, like breathing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I write. That's why you write, because we
Uh-huh.
were supposed to share it. God comforted us, not so we'll be comfortable, but that we would be comforters. That's
Hmm.
our purpose.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, where can people connect with you? Where's your website located? Where can they get your books? How can people connect with you?
Well, thanks to my technical son, my website is my name, AnnePeterson.com. Put an E at the end of Anne, because I spell it with an E, AnnePeterson.com. On Facebook, they can have Anne Peterson Writes, I believe it is for Facebook, but we'll put the links up for them because my head is turning into mush right now, but we'll put the links up for them.
All
And
righty.
also, I just want them to know that after my sister's story, which is broken, that's my story in there too. And after the hard books, then children's books came out of me. So if you're a grandma or a mom, check out my children's books. You can go to my Amazon page and check out all those things.
Hey, probably just Google your name and find you all over the place, can't we?
Yeah.
Me too. That's because we want to spread this love. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for being with me today, Anne.
Thank you so much. I feel honored that you invited me. So thank you, Danielle.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us today with me and Anne. I hope you enjoyed her poetry. I know I did. And I don't know if you had to grab a Kleenex, Stu. I was about starting to cry and trying not to, so I didn't have to go blow my nose or anything. But it's just such us that he will reach. I love you.